are solely the opinions of the speaker and do not reflect the opinion of RFR or any affiliates.
Radio Free Radio. Radio Free Radio.
Radio Free Radio.
What is reality? Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. Who sculpts your reality?
Reality.
Hey guys, Wednesday night, you know what that means.
It's time for your reality.
Another quality broadcast of Reality Brief. Sorry about that, Dan. We got Ronnie and Dan and Don here tonight.
Hey guys.
And we've got a very special guest tonight, Penny Bradley. She's been on the show before talking about the little kerfuffle in this Facebook group deal with the secret space program. Penny, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming on
Thanks
the show.
for coming on. Thanks for being part of Reality Brief.
Yeah.
So, over the last 6 months or so, we've been kind of gathering together a list of things that have been coming out that kind of go along with the stories coming out of the secret space program. I got a mega list here, man. I guess we could just dive right in.
So, well, I wanted to mention something right off the bat. In the Secret Space Program group, we have 8 admins, and 6 of us were either in the German force, or Elena was in ICC and she worked with the Germans. And we've been kind of going with, this name Dark Fleet. It just doesn't fit. It's not what the Germans call themselves, and it's been turned into something of an insult. So we've been racking our brains the last few days trying to remember what it was actually called. And the best we can come up with is Nachtwaffen.
Nachtwaffen. That sounds
Nachtwaffen.
That does sound menacing.
Yeah.
And it means night weapon. The Germans called going into space, going into the night. So night weapon is very...
No, that sounds...
It feels right.
Yeah, it definitely sounds a little more believable that they would name themselves that outside of Dark Fleet. I always was figured that was just what the Allies called it,
Well, you know how people insult the boss whenever that they don't like him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start calling it Nachtwaffen instead of Dark Fleet. And I'm letting you guys have the exclusive.
Well, we appreciate that. So for any of our listeners who may not be familiar with who comprises Dark Fleet, can you tell us just a little bit about how a Dark Fleet actually works?
Dark Fleet is... Nachtwaffen is...
Night Weapon.
The Germans who escaped out of Germany in World War II and went to Antarctica were allied with several ET groups. The most famous whistleblowers only talk about the Draco, but they were also allied with Aldebaran and the Agarthans. Whistleblowers. In fact, the Agarthans were the ones that gave them what's now called Neuschwabenland. So they went into Neuschwabenland through Antarctica, and they built an enormous industrial structure. And they were allied with these three ET groups. So when Admiral Byrd came down for Operation High Jump, they beat him bad. He ran back home with his tail between his legs and told Congress the next war is going to be spaceships, because they beat him that bad. And whenever that President Eisenhower resisted the concept, they started buzzing the White House. Those UFOs that were buzzing the White House through the 50s, those were from Neuschwabenland. But in the meantime, they built bases on the moon, they built bases on Mars, and they just spread out from there. And all of these bases were on Draco properties because of their alliance with the Draco. And in exchange for giving them land rights, they became military partners with the Draco in their police actions in the Empire.
Well, real quick before we continue on with that, I have a theory I want to run by you real quick. Now, you talked about Admiral Byrd and how he got, his tail whipped, came home crying. I actually think it's possible that maybe they captured a disc or a part of a disc or something, and then at Roswell was actually them trying to run it and then crashed it. What do you think about that?
Either that or Roswell was a craft that came from the South Pole and came up to the continental U.S. and got shot down. For our listeners who may be wondering where New Schwabenland is, that's currently in the area that's referred to as Queen Maud Land. And
yes.
I was going to ask if you happen to know, we suspect, we here at Reality Brief have a theory that there is a connection between the Bilderberg Group, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, and Prince Bernhard of Norway, because Queen Maud Land is currently the part of Antarctica that's claimed by Norway. You know how it's like each chunk of Antarctica is claimed by a country. So we have this theory that there's a Norway Black Sun Nachtwaffen connection. Do you know anything about that, or have you ever heard any theories that run along those lines?
Sorry to hit you with so much at once like that.
I know that's kind of out of the blue,
but that's fine. It actually goes along with realizing that the name was Nachtwaffen, because we all remembered a SS group in space that calls itself Schwarzen Sonne, which is Black Sun. So yes, the Black Sun group on Earth is Schwarzen Sonne in space, and all of the royal houses of Europe and the elite in other countries are involved. When Neuschwabenland beat America, that made it where Germans won World War II. Only they didn't force it down everybody's throats. They decided to rule in secret.
Right.
And they rule through
money and power and doing what they can economically that they couldn't do through force of arms.
There's a group. They are ruling America through the Trilateral Commission.
Yep.
That is how David Rockefeller got his power. He got his money from the Rockefeller family businesses for generations, but he got his power because he was the liaison between Neuschwabenland and the American government.
See, I first heard about this through Jim Mars, the whole, all the connections back between, the fascists on the other side of the Atlantic and this
Fourth Reich.
The rise of the Fourth Reich. That's the first I ever heard about this.
I haven't read his book, but I've listened to his video about it, and it was like, what I remembered was right. Mm-hmm. What I remembered was actually correct.
It's like
my God.
Like the Germans lost, but the Nazis won.
The the Germans in Germany lost,
Yeah.
but the Germans in Antarctica won.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they are actually ruling the whole planet through liaisons.
Right.
And the Americans have been chafing under this ever since. Now, I'll be honest. What I remember of dealing with Solar Warden, they were no better than the Germans.
I wouldn't
And
think so.
so making Solar Warden into some sort of a hero is wrong. They are also kidnapping children to serve in their service. They are also mind wiping these kids. They are mind fracturing them into alters that can be programmed to use however they wish. They are in basic slavery for their entire service, which may be anywhere from 20 to 60 years. They are treated just as bad as the people in Nachtwaffen. And they also transport slaves, just like Nachtwaffen. So they're no better. And I was U.S. Navy when I was in Nachtwaffen. I was officially U.S. Navy on loan to them. So they're all in this mess together. As far as I know, the only service in the so-called secret space program that are actually heroes is the Earth Defense Force. Those people are not mind wiped, they're not mind fractured, they know what's going on, and they are putting themselves on the line to protect the planet from the dangers that they're told about. Those people are heroes. The rest of us, we were kidnapped victims.
And I was going to ask, that was the whole Pizzagate connection, right? That's how this connects to, the kids being used as sex slaves to fracture their minds and do all sorts of other horrible stuff.
Exactly. They kidnap the kids, and the ones with the DNA attributes that they're looking for go into the secret space programs. And I say that because there are lots of them. And the rest are just used as sex slaves until they die. On Earth, human trafficking is the biggest problem. It is the biggest moneymaker on the planet. It's more than arms sales and drug sales combined. And the kids that test where that they can be used in space are. The rest of them are either sex slaves or household workers or they're put into mines. But it's wrong for all of it. And then there are the adults that they're kidnapping, and a lot of them are being converted into cyborgs and sold to ETs. And there's like 2 million a year that are kidnapped from Earth just to become cyborgs.
That's not even getting into the people who are openly used as guinea pigs by the medical establishment right in plain sight.
Yeah.
Or Disney or Hollywood or,
there
any of the other.
There is no respect for human life among the elite, and it's the same people running the planet and the space program. You have to understand that this is their approach to us. That, okay. I don't often talk about this, but my family is from the bloodline. And this is part of why I was chosen. And there's an attitude that the bloodline people are better than normal humans. But yet they were still willing to do this stuff to me.
Now for our listeners, can you
just... part of their family.
For our listeners, can you just clarify what the bloodline is?
The bloodline is The bloodline is the group of hybrids, and they're not reptilian hybrids, they're Anunnaki hybrids, that are descended from the beings that the Anunnaki left in charge 5,000 years ago. And the people they're targeting for working in the space programs are people who are cast-offs. Like my family was descended from a bastard child of Henry VIII. We are the people they're looking for. We have the genetics, but not the privileges. So if we disappear, nobody notices.
Is everybody that's of the bloodline, are they descendants of Charlemagne? Does it tie in with that?
There are 13
Merovingian,
families.
the Merovingian bloodlines?
So you're talking about what some people would know as the 13 Illuminati bloodlines.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 13 Illuminati bloodlines are the people that they're targeting first. They have the Rh negative blood, which my mother had. I don't. They have the genetics from the original Anunnaki hybrids. Now, I know there is a Draco out there, an individual Draco, not the entire race, just one guy. He's a red Draco, and he's addicted to human hormone. And he's the one that a lot of the elite are worshiping while they do all this crap to people. They're feeding him his fix.
So a lot of people have said that there's Dracos that feed on loosh. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, this one individual guy is responsible for that.
So you know of one.
I know of one.
So you don't think it's a common...
The rest of them are just... They're aggressive. They're in your face. But they have honor. This guy doesn't have honor.
So I guess as personality type, I hate to make this comparison, but would you say it'd be akin to a Klingon? From Star
Actually,
Trek?
they think we're Klingons. I'm not kidding.
Kapla!
Yeah, except that most ETs view us as without honor.
Right.
Because we kidnap and torture our own children and sell our own race as slaves.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite bits out of Star Trek. Was there's this episode of DS9, right, where Quark and Cisco and a bunch of the other squad was stranded on this planet. I think it was the Siege of AR-488 or something like that, and Quark and Cisco have an uncomfortable moment, and Quark just goes off and he goes, "You know what? You've typecast Ferengi as all being greedy and everything, but give us crap for being all about profit and money. But I'll tell you what, we never put our own people in concentration camps. We never nuked our own planet. We never sold each other as slaves. So why don't you put that in your pipe and smoke it?"
Exactly. I agree with Quark on that one.
Quark's the man.
Yes. They had their rules of acquisition and they followed them.
I actually have a paperback of that.
But yeah, most of the other races look at us in absolute horror because we are so violent and we don't value our own children and we don't value each other. And the people that think that there are benevolent ETs out there going to rescue us, they're wrong. That's all I can say. There's nobody going to rescue us as long as we're allowing this crap to go on. We have to stop the human trafficking, both on Earth and in space.
Oh, I concur.
We have to stop the pedophilia. We have to actually value our kids and each other before anybody's going to think about helping us.
But isn't that more of an individual thing? I mean,
yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
Like,
I don't think that any sentient being should ever be made a slave.
It's like as
Well,
a
this
whole,
is my
human beings.
experience from dealing with the ETs, and I was in
No,
Nachtwaffen.
I'm with you on that because it's like, what Quark said is completely correct. Like, we do these horrible things to ourselves, but we only allow that to happen on a macro scale because we let it happen in a micro scale because we're too busy to watch our kids so they can get caught up at a Target. I mean, I don't know if recently you've seen the scourge of Facebook posts talking about men trying to pick up unsuspecting kids from distracted parents at Target lately, but there's been a rash of them on Facebook, and they've really got me thinking about.
That's fucked up.
Well, they've got me thinking about the little things.
I shared one of
that I
those
could do.
videos yesterday.
Yeah, and it's frightening when you really think about that. We'll do that to our own kind, but like when it boils down to like stopping it, it's like I'm just as guilty of making violence in this world with people who don't agree with me, and it seems like lately people have gotten so polarized that it's just it's impossible not to. Are y'all picking up on that, or is that just me?
No, I'm picking up on it too. The veil's getting thin, and I've seen the older I get, the more weirder I see people get, and I gotta really wonder if it's like if it's something in the water or something in the air.
The polarization is on purpose. If you look at the media,
But it's not just the media.
They've now got media that is for liberals and media that is for conservatives, and these people don't even listen to what the other one is saying.
Yep.
And they're labeling each other as a disease.
Yeah.
And
When they're really both part of the problem.
exactly, they're both part of the problem because they're not talking to each other.
They're talking at each other.
They're screaming at each other,
Yeah.
and I didn't like either candidate that ran.
I didn't even like
so-
the libertarian candidate this time, to be honest. And usually I'm a
as-
sucker for the Libertarian Party, but this time I was like, come on, Gary, get it together, dog.
As soon as the election was over, Gary Johnston went on a 3-month pot binge. I mean,
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
There is not a damn thing wrong
Not
with
to
that.
say he wasn't on a pot
I'm
binge
sorry.
before the election,
Like-
before the campaign.
but it doesn't look good for your candidate to be. What happened? I have an echo now.
Oh.
Okay. It doesn't look good for your candidate to go on a pot binge when he loses.
I hear you on that, but I definitely prefer the way Gary bombed Aleppo to the way Hillary bombed Aleppo.
Yeah.
Womp.
Oh, Dan.
Really?
Oh, Dan.
This whole thing about fake news. I run pages on Facebook, and no, I'm not gonna. I keep that separate from my SSP. But it got to where people coming on and just they don't even give you a logical argument about why you're wrong. They just label it fake news.
Exactly.
And I've got to where I banned them from the page because they're just being trolls.
Well, that's where
If,
the
if you can't come up with a logical reason for your position, why are you talking?
Yeah, you definitely see
because
that a
we
lot.
can. that to me, that's where it's like the term shitposting comes from, and I'm so against it because it's like if I put something up on Facebook, it's because I kind of want to have a discussion about it sometimes. And if you just come in there and say fake news and then cut the conversation off at that, it's like, well, why are you here? Okay, you're just a shit poster. And then
Yeah.
I've blocked a lot of people because of that.
People do that to get their jollies off, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, what's crazy is I've seen people that when they couldn't, when they actually got off social media and then started like getting hostile towards people in real life because they didn't have social media to get that out of their system anymore, and it's a very strange phenomenon.
Yeah, people are getting really weird. And going through the last couple of years, seeing what was on Facebook, and I have friends from both sides of the polarity. So watching what they post on their wall, and then listening to people real world who are actually a lot nastier than my friends on Facebook, And then looking at how things have been playing out, I don't think the average person knows how to do critical thinking anymore.
No.
No,
God,
they
no.
definitely don't teach you how to do it in government indoctrination centers. I mean, public schools anymore.
That's
something that
was a lost art when I graduated in 2001. I can only imagine 16 years later of the same, except for now it's worse because now it seems like the pop songs are worse than they were when I was a kid, and they were bad when I was a kid.
Well, it's
And I'm just talking about content.
I'm older than all of you because I was born in the 50s. In the 70s, when I was in high school, they were still teaching Latin in public schools.
Well,
That's
when-
awesome.
They
in
were still-
1997, they
they-
were teaching Latin as well because I took that for 1 year, and I was like, I can't do this again. That's a
They
hard
were
language.
teaching logic in junior year English class. They were teaching logic in sophomore year geometry.
Yeah, they're still doing that.
And by the time my kids got there, and they were going to high school in the 90s, so they're probably about your age, they stopped teaching logic in English, and between my oldest, who is in his 40s,
What just happened?
Did we lose her?
I think we lost her.
Miss Bradley, are you still there?
No,
You still with us?
Feet got out.
Okay.
minute.
Wait, there she is.
So
you're back.
I started teaching logic at home, so my kids can think. I'll tell you what really scared me though was my youngest was taking ROTC, Air Force ROTC, and in his senior year he came. Lou, the man I live with, and I were talking about UFOs and space because I was starting to remember, and my kid came up with, the Air Force wouldn't lie to us. I swear that was the scariest thing any of my kids ever came up with.
That is
Ever.
pretty scary.
And I hunted down my copy of 1984 and forever radicalized that kid.
Excellent.
That's usually where it goes.
But yeah, I hadn't remembered SSP then, but I knew that ETs were real. So I didn't start actually remembering SSP until about 4 years ago. And it took me a couple of years to figure out what I was remembering.
Now I have a
So-
question about the SSP because I'm kind of I'm new to all of this, but it does intrigue
Okay.
me because my life has been kind of a shit show my entire life. There's been a lot of negative things that happened to me when I was a kid that caused me to block off a lot of stuff. And through my studies of MK Ultra, for example, like I've always been very intrigued by that because I can see how they could take that psychological, like you broke it down earlier about the mind fracturing, and I definitely believe that I've went through that. Now, at what point?
I'm sorry.
Well, here lately, I had a breakdown a couple weeks back, and I had to go over and talk to Donald and ask him a bunch of questions, and he was just like, "Man, this is you might be on in my lab." Like, were you legitimately concerned about that, Donald? I mean, I know you're kind of messing with me, but
Man, all the stories, I mean, I don't know how deep you wanted to get into this. I mean, I'm sure she wanted to talk about some stuff too. Everything that you've told me, I feel like there's a chance, man. Definitely.
now, so when you have these like remembrances, do they break you down? I'm sorry, back to you, Miss Bradley.
Oh,
Does it come at once, or does it just like one day it finally catches up to you?
with me, it was nightmares. The most traumatic stuff came first. And the nightmares were so real, I could smell the blood. And it's like, okay, that's based on something real. There's too much sensation to it. It's because regular dreams are kind of one-dimensional, and this was like this was based on a remembering. So the particular one that came first was when I was in Shula on Mars, and the Mars Raptors came through the wall, and the Germans on Mars, and I guess throughout the space colonies, have a technology where they can dial back. Tony Rodriguez calls it rephoning. And you go back in time before the incident and pull everybody out. And that's
he said
that's what happened.
they would cancel the mission, I think.
They'd cancel the mission sometimes. In this particular case, they went back to just before the wall came down and pulled us out. But I still have nightmares of the original story. And I couldn't have been... Well, I was in Shula from age 9 to 19. So I was a young teen when this happened. And I have psi abilities that were built into me. I'm one of the Me-Labs that was genetically altered to increase my psi abilities. And during my training at Langley, they put them behind an adrenaline wall for the safety of everybody I was around. So when the Raptors came through the wall, I created this, like a force field around the group of people that were with me, and did my best to protect everybody. I made it as big as I could. So apparently we survived, and that told the Germans they had to go back and rescue the rest. So, yeah, that was one of the better things that I've done with those abilities.
It's far out.
I can't just walk into a Walmart and turn off all the electronics, but
Right.
but if I'm really scared, things come up.
So, while we're talking about dreams here, I found an article recently talking about. Let me see if I can find it in my list here. Okay, it's essentially like they found, scientists have discovered the parts of the brain involved in dreaming. So this kind of opens up the whole door there for, possible implants, dreams, and things like that to me. Now, do you know of any kind of tech like that from the
Yes.
programs?
I've had a couple of brain MRIs, and I know they used a plastic tech on me that doesn't show up on an MRI. So instead of having the white marks that other people do from chips, I have blank spaces and holes, basically. So from the holes in my MRI, I've got a lot of junk in there. And when Adrian Espinosa checked my Skynet file, the first thing that pops out of his mouth was, "Oh, you're a cyborg." And I'm like, what? Because I'm not a fan of the singularity. And I go, what? I'm still having existential issues about how much AI they installed in me. When they did my mind wipe, they did not intend for me to remember. And there's booby trapping on it. and there were chips to ensure I didn't remember. And the man who used the remember code on me was murdered last December. So they're not real happy that I'm remembering what I'm remembering, and it's like every day I remember more. I'm up to 28 alters that I've reintegrated. The last one wasn't a personality, though. It was just traumatic memories of being nailed inside a wall during my mind fracture. They did it over and over. They had a hole in the wall, and I was a little kid, 4 years old, and they would nail me into the wall and leave me until I ran out of air.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through
yeah.
that. Can you tell us a little bit about the booby traps on the memories?
The booby traps are things like you suddenly become suicidal when you're not, because they have you programmed that if you remember this, you're going to die, so you can't talk about it. I've been fighting suicidal programming for 4 years. I've got people helping me with that right now. James Rink did a regression hypnosis on me the first part of April, and one came up from that. So yeah, it's been a tough month. When the altar for Nachtwaffen came up, there was not only suicidal programming, but what's called harm the helper programming. And a woman in the group, the Secret Space Program group, had helped that altar come up through her own psychic abilities. And I couldn't even talk to her. I couldn't. I am so glad that she was online instead of in person. That's the programming why some of the super soldiers have killed their entire families. So when you hear about a super soldier went nuts and killed their girlfriend and kids and all this, it's because of harm the helper programming. It's a way that they protect them, the perps protect themselves. Along that line, I have a really weird memory from when I was at Langley. I couldn't have been more than 6, and it was Christmas time. And I remember being in a big room, and there's a Christmas tree in the corner, and I was in a dress, which was a really big deal because most of the time I was in hospital pajamas. And I know there are people in the room because I can see the trousers and I can see the skirt and legs and heels. But literally from the hips up, they are invisible. I can't tell what they were wearing, who they were. I can't identify those people. Now, if that memory ever comes up, perfect, those people are going to be in trouble.
Well, one of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight is how some of this stuff is getting leaked out into the mainstream through the media. And I just sent you a link over Facebook. We have this article from RT, and this is dated February 19th of this year. We talked about this before on the show. Would you delete traumatic memories? Scientists have discovered how. And they have this article talking about how scientists in Canada are looking for ways to treat PTSD by basically deleting memories. And they're starting to let some of this mind wipe tech slip out into the mainstream through various media channels.
There's also a companion article to that talks about reviving dormant memories with magnetic pulses to the brain, which kind of goes along with what Tony and I think Randy Kramer said about getting MRIs and then gaining large chunks of memory back.
And then kind of simultaneously from Futurism, Futurism.com, I see this as kind of also a parallel story. They talk about artificial intelligence. It's filed under that category, but they say we just created an artificial synapse that can learn autonomously. So now they're talking about building artificial synapses, and I can see how you could implant memories by sending nanites into somebody's brain that would go in and install these artificial synapses, thus creating fake memories.
It all goes into the tech that they use in most of the Black Ops. What they do is they mind wipe you, so you don't remember anything. They fracture you into alters, and they program each alter. And with the alter, they can give you an entire back history so that you think this is who you are. They can program the alter to be the other gender, speak another language, have totally different values, different religion, everything.
Yeah, a completely different neural program, a completely different neural pattern.
And Stuart Swerdlow talks about that they form a 13 by 13 by 13 cube, which means I have a long way to go because I've only reintegrated 28. And that's the 13 cube is over 2,000. And that some of them are left empty. Some of them are storage places for really traumatic memories, because that's how that's how your mind forms the fracture in the first place, is to have a place to store the trauma. And out of the 28, I've had probably 3 that are just traumatic memories. And each time I reintegrate a new one, I get more memories from the ones I've already reintegrated. So it's like the pieces start coming together.
WizKid here for Cool Smiles, Dentist Market Quest, and Thrifty Mom's Love.
Technical
smiles.
difficulties.
Huh?
I'm sorry, you probably couldn't hear that, but there was an ad playing from one of the websites we had up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you lose your train of thought there.
It's not fun reintegrating. It's not fun remembering. I'm doing the work because I want to know what they did to me. I want to know what I've been used for. I want to know what I've experienced. And I can understand people that don't want to do the work wanting to forget it all. The trouble is that your subconscious remembers it and bubbles it back up to remember it.
It's going to come back one way or another.
Yeah. The faith I follow talks about that your shadow will bubble up. It will keep being in your face until you deal with the problems. Well, that's what's going on with these people that have been mind fractured, is the alters. The subconscious is remembering what's gone on and is trying to bring it up to be dealt with. And if you go through and erase the memories, then you're going to be tormented and not know why, not be able to find out why. So I don't think that's a good idea unless you are so messed up that you can't function at all. And then it would only be with the consent of the person. I think this stuff that they're doing to all of us is just wrong.
I feel. Can I stop you there for 2 seconds? Because I feel like you're speaking directly to me, and I'm not taking it personally. I'm just like, I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's like, it's kind of messing with me. And it's not a joke, man. I'm dead serious.
I'm
like,
sorry for laughing.
where would one go to start to find out like more about this kind of stuff? Like, if if I'm beginning to suspect that I too was involved in something bad, and I mean, heaven help me, some of the nightmares that I've had lately, like it's bad. Where do I begin?
What I did was I got a hypnotist that was trained by Dolores Cannon, and I told her honestly, I'm on SSDI, I don't have a lot of money, I can't pay you what you normally charge, this is what I can pay you, are you willing to help me for this? And she graciously gave me a full 8-hour day. And I went in with questions. Instead of trying to get, because they take you back to times and you get memories, instead of trying to do that, I went directly to the subconscious and asked questions. Things that I wanted answers to. And she recorded it, so I have the recording that I can go back and check if something feels weird, or if I'm not remembering it right. That was in January of 2015, and that was the first step, and that helped me organize the memories into some sort of a time frame. I still don't have it where it's like, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. No, I don't have continuity. I have vignettes. This happened, and then it seems like years later this happened. And you notice I tell you an age range because I don't know exactly. But I know where I was at certain ages in that altar. I know that I'm still kidnapped regularly. There are some nights that I'm taken as many as 4 times for different programs. These people don't apparently have a clue that they're all using me. I'm starting to wake up during missions and do things that they aren't. The message I got back from the handler was, "You're losing the plot, Penny." And yeah, I'm subjected to synthetic telepathy. Well, I have a cap I wear when I'm not on camera, and it's an EMF blocker, and it stops the handler cold. And because they can't generally talk to me directly anymore, they've taken up going through my friends. And some of those messages are really extremely disturbing. And one of my best friends channeled the message from the CIA that they were going to kill the man that they did in December. That was in October. She couldn't understand why I didn't want to talk to her for weeks. Because she didn't remember telling me. So yeah, it's a real, I had to go back and copy and paste her message and say, this is why I haven't wanted to talk to you. You were channeling the CIA. And
well, yeah, I can understand one.
Yeah, that's gotta be rough.
I definitely want to distance myself from that myself.
Well, changing gears just a little bit, backpedaling some. You talked a lot about the cyborgs and the super soldier program. We've been having a lot of breakthroughs, in surface level science concerning that. I got an article here. Scientists have created an artificial retina implant that can restore millions vision to millions, and you've got the bankers plotting on how they can make money off of cybernetics and all that kind of stuff. So what exactly does that look like inside of the secret space programs?
it looks like a cyborg is an android completely mechanical and AI with just enough organic matter to seat the consciousness. And they only do that because most of the ET tech requires a consciousness. Otherwise, it would just be robotics. They can completely duplicate a human being with just robotics. And they've been doing it for decades. This is not new tech. Now, as far as repairing people with problems, they have tech. They call it a regeneration chamber. It's a tank with green goo in it. Sometimes it's other colors, but it's usually green. It's a biogel, so it's alive in its own way. And they dump you in it, and they hook you to a wire so you stay still. And they can the computer that controls it takes a sample of your blood before you go in, and they can set it to age and weight, and depending on how damaged you are or how much tissue they've recovered, they can bring you back from the dead for up to 4 months. They can completely repair any genetic defects if they want to. People in the programs are kept below age 35 because that's your maximum productivity age.
Right, they
So-
don't take people after a certain age. Is that relatively correct?
On Earth, they don't take you after a certain age. In space, they just dump you back in the tank and you're back to 35. Actually, they keep women in their 20s because they're prettier. And the men are usually in their 30s because they're stronger then. But they just keep you there. You're in the tank every week or so anyway because of the drugs that they give you.
Well, I've seen a lot of articles.
They destroy the drugs they give you in space to make you more productive and smarter, destroy your liver. So they put you in the tank once a week anyway. So they just reset you for optimum weight and the age that they want that day. And so it doesn't matter what happens to you. You're not allowed to die. I remember being eaten by spiders on Mars, so I know I was dead. I was brought back from the dead more than once.
Yeah, we have this article here of Beta Minds, it's minds.com. Scientists get the green light to resurrect the dead with stem cells.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're showing you it now. I mean,
that's what they're doing in space.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
They've been doing that since the 1950s.
Makes sense. I mean, anything that we're just now finding out about, they've perfected a long time ago.
Well, NBC News broke last night, April 26, 2017. Artificial womb might help the littlest premature babies survive. And they're talking about this baby lamb that they have growing, and I just posted it for everybody here on our Facebook page. They have this baby lamb growing in an artificial, growing in a bag, and it's got this artificial umbilicus going into its tummy tum. And yeah, that's they're in the next couple of years, if not this year, we're going to see the advent of tank-bred humans out in the public eye. Also from Inquisitor, written by one Daniel Ketchum, April 9th, 2017, Live Forever. Scientists research immortality with cybernetics, DNA tinkering, new drugs, and cloning. And they go to talk about all this stuff that it really looks like secret space program tech or off-world tech that's just starting to trickle out into the public eye little by little.
Well, they're going to have to start bringing it out because we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as humanity's consciousness ascends, we're going to need solutions to the problems that we've faced, pretty much since humanity was born. But now Elon Musk is talking about this company called Neuralink, and they have the goal of creating neural connections between computers and human beings. So,
That's been going on since the 1960s. in
Yeah.
space.
And now we have private companies talking about it out in the open, whereas it was the stuff of Black Ops space programs just a few years ago, and now it's out in the public eye, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
When I was a fighter pilot on Mars, I had a chip behind my left ear that it was inserted into the bone, and it connected me with the ship's computer. And whenever the plane ended up destroyed, because the Mantids have tech, then they would just readjust it to the next plane. That was the same chip that connected me to the computer on the ship where I was a navigator in Nachtwaffen.
Now, how is that link? It was just a mind link? Was it something on the DNA level? How exactly did that work? Do you know?
The chip made a psychic connection. It was like a radio connection. Like the same idea as how synthetic telepathy works. And most of the computers in the programs are created from neurons that are taken from human DNA. And so they have a mind. So you're just connecting one mind to another. And while you're connected to it, when I was a navigator, I was basically an extension of the computer. So whatever I did during that time was not my free will. Part of it, I have trouble remembering it because the events were stored in the ship's computer instead of in my brain. So yeah, I've been the cyborg. I actually still have an active alter that is a cyborg for Kruger, and another alter that is an augmented human for Kruger.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about how the Kruger thing works? We had a guest on a couple weeks ago, but he claimed to be a part of it, but he wasn't really remembering how it actually worked. Can you enlighten us on that?
Kruger and Serene were the doctors who did the mind fracturing. And they set up competing mercenary companies. And these mercenaries are cyborgs created from clones of the people that are mind fractured. So that when they make a clone of you, there is a psychic link between the two, and they can rather easily transfer your consciousness from your original body into the clone.
So does that work on quantum entanglement properties, like being light being in your DNA?
Yes, it's quantum entanglement because you were originally one body. The clones are made from cells from the original body. Mm-hmm. And the people that donated cells, knowingly or not, that were turned into supercomputers, the quantum computers, those people are also psychically linked to those computers.
That's slipping back out into the public eye too. We just recently saw an article talking about how they've finally been able to quantum entangle like literally millions of atoms, as if with previous quantum entanglement techs they've only been able to do hundreds or even maybe a few thousand at a time. But I'm looking for the article to see if I can't find this.
Okay, that's what's going on. Is clones and the original human are quantum entangled with each other, and the programs have been using that property to transfer alters from the original person into the clone, to use them for however long they want to, and then return the consciousness to the same point they took it. if they get the time frame short enough between taking and leaving on the person, then you don't remember it. If it's long enough, then your mind goes, wait a minute, what happened here?
Makes sense.
And since I'm diabetic, I've discovered that my blood sugar will be way out of whack after they've taken me for Super Soldier. I don't know what they do to me when they bring me back, but it screws up my blood sugar.
That's interesting. I mean, it sucks for you, obviously, but I wonder why that is.
I wake up tireder than when I went to bed, and sometimes I'm in a really foul mood and don't know why. And I get weird memories. When I first started doing these interviews, the CIA wasn't happy about it.
Huh.
So
I can imagine, and I mean, we appreciate the tremendous risk that you're taking to come on the show now. I mean, I realize you're putting yourself out there, and you could potentially be opening up yourself to a lot. So, thanks for your bravery and your courage coming forward.
Well, I got shot April 13th with a microwave laser. So,
and that wasn't the first time either, was it?
No, I've been shot 3 times last summer with DEWs, which are ET Tech. That's a directed energy weapon. It's based, I think, on sound tech. And I was shot 3 times in November from a spaceship. And I was shot once in January with the microwave laser, and I was shot again April 13th. So I don't know why I'm still alive.
What?
I'm being honest. I have no idea why I'm still alive, because somebody is trying really hard to get rid of me.
So what does that do to you? What are the symptoms of being shot with a directed energy weapon?
The directed energy weapon felt like I was being hit with a log, except there were no visible signs of it. And I got shot in the kidney, the last one of those, and it had internal bleeding from August until last month.
Wow.
Well,
I was having urinary tract infections right and left about every 3 weeks from November until last month. And I'm knocking on wood, I haven't had one since then, but that was from the internal bleeding from being shot with a DEW. They're meant to be lethal, and
I'm sure they can certainly
I've just
be.
been lucky.
I've seen, they refer to them as directed energy weapons as well, but they're more like attached to Navy ships, and they're used to shoot missiles out of the sky. And it's a straight up phaser cannon, but you don't even see the beam.
Yeah.
You just see the missile burst into flames and fall out of the sky.
Yeah, these are the handheld versions. The first one, I was in Virginia City in Nevada, visiting family. We had decided to go to a tourist trap, and we went into the local bar to get a bottle of water, and I got shot there, and it's becoming a regular occurrence since.
I mean, this is coming to light in the public too. We have an article from The Sun, British news. The future of spying. Earth's atmosphere can be used into a massive surveillance system using lasers, and it can also be used to deploy directed energy weapons by bouncing them off of the atmosphere and using them against the public or whoever.
I guess similar to HARP.
BAE Systems is designing a directed energy laser system that could allow military commanders to spy on enemy activities from space.
Isn't that funny? Because BAE Systems is the same ones that are making that Chemputer, which is like a replicator, essentially.
Yeah,
a
we're
liquid.
starting to call them chia drones.
I don't know if you've seen the video, Penny. It was
Growable
floating around.
drones.
It was essentially a vat filled with fluid, and they would grow drones in it. And this company,
Yeah,
BAA,
I saw that.
We're coming up on the top of the hour, and we may have to come when we get back from the break. We are going to have to go to break here pretty soon, but when we get back, we've got video from that too.
Oh yeah, we could play that. for
So
you,
we could
but
go ahead and play
unfortunately,
that for
Penny-
our audience.
So, yeah, Penny, thanks again for coming on. Like I said, we're going to take a short break if you want to just
Please stay with us through the break, though.
Get a drink.
Okay, I'll hang
use the
out.
restroom, tease Lou, whatever you got to do. Well, we'll be back shortly.
And in the meantime, while we're on the air, we're gonna share some music from myself. Oh yeah, 'cause that sun can't never set on Phoebus.
Thought they would look to us, thought they would follow us, but we were wrong. Thought they would listen, thought they would see, but we were wrong. Saturn, virgin mother of virtue. Villainous animals will seek out and hurt you, distort you and twist you, and misrepresent you. Your elegant innocence has transformed you into a definite target of manipulations, angry ravagings of launder your purity, spoil your seed, shadow you under scrutiny, or hide you entirely from consensus reality. Veritas, one and only. Veritas, our own. Veritas, we will find you. We will know you. We will own you. Seeking her endlessly, she's ever elusive. Further and further now, your source gets diluted, and the well is always deeper. How deep can you dive? How deep is your need to stare the truth in the eye? The truth is that you hide from her. You are vulnerable. As you lied to yourself.
Hey guys.
And we're back
We're back, guys.
here on Reality Brief, your Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
You know, you guys, if you like the show, if you like what you hear here, if you want to help us out and continue to do what we do, you can go over to patreon.com/Radio Free Radio and maybe consider giving $1 or something. You know, it helps us get equipment so we can do more stuff. Hopefully soon we'll have the video coming in so you can actually see Penny when she's talking to you. Not all lagged out. I know we tried to put it in there, but it's a little laggy, so. Anyway, you're listening to Radio Free Radio, and this is Reality Brief with Dan, Ron, Don, and Penny.
Hey, we're back. Penny, are you there?
Oops. Hold on, let me fix that. Hey, it's awesome here. Penny, you back? Nope, she's not, because I don't know how to operate the equipment here, so.
She can
It's
probably
great.
hear
Give
us,
us money
but,
so we
yeah.
can do more fail for you guys. It's awesome. All right, 1 second. Let me just turn this
I like
back on.
money.
Better producers.
Where do we go?
Sorry, I love you guys.
Yeah, and our producer called in sick today. Figures.
What?
Yes. There we go. Penny, you back?
It's a plot.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, awesome. We got you there. So, we left off. What were we talking about when we left off? Dan?
Oh, we were talking about the
Computer.
the computer and the Chia drones, as we're referring to them.
Oh,
Did
but
you
we.
play the video?
Oh no, we didn't play the video, but we'll get to that. Actually, first we had some questions from the YouTube chat. If you want to try and take a crack at them. First one, can you ask Penny for some more detail on the 3D cube grid that the programmers use? How does that appear to her? You have any information on that?
It appears to me as a black wall that I chip at daily.
Okay, well, I hope that answers your question there. We also have, this one here from Kane. Hi, Penny, not sure if you're in chat. It's me, Kane, on Facebook. Was wondering if you could talk about the transmissions that you have been picking up from Darkfleet.
I occasionally get bits and pieces of things that they're transmitting on a frequency that I still have a chip for. Nothing that could be used as intel. It's all in German, which I don't speak very well. My German has improved a lot since reintegrating with that altar, but I'm finding that she didn't speak educated German. She spoke more of a
Slang
gutter,
German.
more of a gutter version.
I can speak a pretty
Like
good
the English
gutter.
that we speak on Reality Brief.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch, Fräulein?
No, you guys are actually, you sound educated.
Oh, well, thanks. Because we're not.
She was
Nine.
Sorry.
She was an officer on a freighter and uses a lot of swear words.
And
Yeah.
German swear words are even worse.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, German swear words. You just you've been cussed at.
Vic.
So, Penny, if you don't mind, I'd like to open up the phone lines if anybody else wanted to call in with a question. If that's okay with you.
Okay.
All right, so that number here is 757-525-3276. You can call in if you got a question, comment, whatever. Just don't troll, because if you're being a snarky dude, snarky lady...
You're getting cut.
You're cut. You're not doing it.
We're not playing this game tonight.
All right.
Billy.
So...
I saw a question where they asked about the reptilians and mantids on Mars.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot to put that one in there. Yeah, definitely.
The reptilians and mantids on Mars were victims of the Germans. They were viciously attacked without warning. The Raptors, the ones that Mars Defense Force calls Lizzies, they used to be a spacefaring race and lost their capabilities during the war that was about 15,000 years ago. So they are they're an intelligent race that is going through their dark ages. They're about technologically at the level that the American Indian was whenever the Europeans showed up.
Wow.
They are, however, taller than humans, heavier than humans, and they come equipped with these claws that are a good 6 inches long. And in a bare-handed fight, they will win every time. They don't have explosives, so when they tear down a wall, it's with battering rams, usually rock.
Straight up mechanical force.
Straight up mechanical force. They are telepathic, but not as much as the other races. The Mantids are a competing empire with the Draco. I hear a lot of nonsense about them being allies and the one or the other being over them, and not true.
I'd really like to know more about the Mantids, actually. They kind of fascinate me.
They have spaceflight. They have hyperdrive. They are extremely telepathic. They exist in multiple dimensions at once and are able to step into 4D to travel to another point in time in 3D. I'm not sure if they do it telepathically or if they have tech. Out of all of the telepathic races I encountered, their presence is the most gentle. They were literally caught with their pants down by the Germans, or that would have never happened. And I've had recent encounters with them where they have forgiven me for how fierce I was to them in that war. And it's really touched my heart.
Do you know where the Mantid homeworld was originally?
No, I know that
How far their empire stretches?
I have no idea how far they stretch or where their original homeworld was. I do know that they're an alliance of multiple insectoid races, and that different ones of them have different homeworlds.
Oh, okay.
But their general approach is to be healers. So the Germans attacking them was really a stupid thing to do.
Now, are humans and mantids still at war on some level? On Mars or something?
The war in the Northern Hemisphere was resolved in 1990 with the treaty. The war in the Southern Hemisphere is still ongoing to my knowledge, but it's mostly between the raptor tribes and the humans.
So you could say that attacking the mantids was one of those, hey, let's invade Russia during the winter kind of mistakes.
Yeah. It wasn't a smart thing. It was total arrogance on the part of the Germans. They didn't like the Draco territory, and they liked where the mantids had their city, and they went in with a neutron bomb and destroyed it so they could wait 3 months and move in.
Terrible.
Not cool.
That's a terrible technology. You know that?
The neutron bomb that is particularly nefarious.
Well, I do have that computer video here. If you guys want to take a look at that, let me just pull this up. Stop it.
Cool music, I guess.
There we go. So, you know, there you see it. It's got, you know, some fat full of fluid, combining stuff and they're printing chips and everything.
They grow up so fast.
You think Obama had a lab-grown drone?
Probably. He could have been a lab-grown drone.
Little droney. So, yeah, and that's BAE. That's the same company we were talking about earlier.
That's definitely one of those
And,
big-time New World Order corporations.
If you want, I could... You still... Yeah, pull the screen back up. I have the actual... This is BAE's website, BAEsystems.com, talking about computer, because this is not something someone just made up and put on Facebook. This is actually real. You can go to BAEsystems.com and look at it for yourself, what they're saying they're doing. So
That's how everything is built now in the space program.
Everything's just vat-grown.
There are...
The clones, the machines, everything.
The clones are not exactly like that, but they can create an adult version in under 24 hours. It just doesn't have a mind. It takes longer than that for a mind to develop.
Now we've also got a recent article about touch-sensitive elastic fibers offering new interfaces for electronics. Now, does that sound like anything that you've encountered? It would be like... you know, maybe some fabric that when you flex a certain way it makes control for something, or...
What I've seen is more the fabric monitors the biology, so that if you are injured and pass out, that it radios your unit to let you know.
Okay.
Let them know they have to come get you.
Now, there's also been some stuff about, you know, glass and things that they're going to start making cell phones that are self-repairing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ran into any kind of self-repairing...
self-repairing spacesuit tech?
Anything like that, you know?
Most of the tech... The androids are all with the self-repairing metals. Self-repairing materials. If they get injured, they can repair themselves, unless like the whole arm is blown off, then they have to come back into the shop.
Get a new one attached.
Grow a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the article from Phys.org says this was posted on April 4th. Materials may lead to self-healing smartphones, and they're talking about self-healing polymers that are geared towards electronics and soft robotics, as they call them, and can help repair themselves. It's stretchable, transparent, conducts ions to generate current, and could one day help your broken smartphone get back together again.
Yeah, among other things.
Or
I thought they designed smartphones to break so that you'd have to buy a new one.
That's a good point.
Yeah, good. Yeah. They're gonna have to find something else on it.
Yeah,
That
these
breaks.
guys are gonna get shut down.
Or the
Now the batteries are just gonna catch on fire even worse than they already do now.
the batteries will implode and leave a time hole in your pocket.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let's see. All right, now
we
I
talked
don't
earlier.
have one of those, by the way.
We talked earlier about how Elon Musk is talking about, getting into space and, merging man with machine. And, when the banks are starting to talk about all this space stuff, then things are definitely getting real. We have an article from Business Insider. Goldman Sachs says that space mining platinum is more realistic than perceived. And they have this huge article talking about... They have this artist impression of an asteroid mine created by Deep Space Industries, a company based in California and Luxembourg. Goldman Sachs is bullish on space mining with an asteroid-grabbing spacecraft. In a 98-page note for clients seen by Business Insider, analyst Noah Popanak and his team argue that platinum mining in space is getting cheaper, easier, and the rewards are becoming greater and greater as time goes by. So they're talking about doing all this, essentially with robots from Earth.
Yeah, they have to do it with robots.
They're going to have competition. I'll just put it that
Well,
way.
they have to do it.
The ICC is mining the asteroids already.
I would assume Goldman Sachs is a tool of ICC.
They're doing soft disclosure, is what they're doing. They're letting it out where it's the theory that the admins from the SSP group have is that because so many of us are starting to remember that what they're doing is they're going to bring it all forward as though it's new discoveries.
Right.
And never tell anybody that it's been going on for 70 years.
And that's why I think they gotta go. If they do start doing it commercially in front of everybody's face, they have to use robots because they can't send people out there because people won't keep their mouths shut about the bases that are already there.
They'll have a hard time finding people here on Earth that'll keep their mouth shut.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, you just
The ICC is using human slaves right now and mind wiping them if they ever send them back home. And most of them serve their time as miners and then get converted into cyborgs. So there's no chance of them talking.
Can you just briefly go over the galactic slave trade, if you will, how all that exactly works? Who's buying them? What are they getting in trade from? Is it
just about organ harvesting and biological components, or is there more to it?
Is it all abductees, or do they, like, for lack of better words, farm raise humans for food or something like that? I've heard all kinds of different things.
They have been kidnapping humans from Earth, mostly war refugees, homeless, people that are in the hospital for long term, because if they're dying in the hospital, they can just pop them into the regen tank and they'll be fine. So they're getting people that nobody will notice they're missing, and that's what they've been using for decades. That's part of the reason why they have so many wars all the time, is so that they have a source of raw materials. They use parts of the brain and spinal column in the cyborg, and enough of the digestive system and endocrine to keep them working. The rest does go into the organ harvesting. Parts are sold to ETs who want genetic materials for their own experiments. Um, a lot of it is canned and sold as food. Um,
So Soylent Green is people.
What species eats that? I mean, obviously we've all heard that, all the Dracos eat the babies, but, there's got to be more than just that.
As far as I know, there are only 12 races out there that eat humans. And
Which ones are those?
The Mars raptors do.
Or raptors, yeah, that makes sense.
The inner Earth raptors do. And the United States is allied with them, by the way. And some of the Draco do, but the ones I was around never did in front of me. So I cannot verify that as fact.
Right.
I know that when I left the SSP in 2014, that there were nearly 1,000 races that were buying cyborgs from the ICC. And there are processing plants on Mars, Ceres, Pluto. There's a huge one on Pluto. And scattered through the asteroid belt.
Do you remember anything about Planet 9 by chance?
That's blocked from my memory. And yes, I should know about it because I was a navigator. So I go to look for that, and there's this just... Remember I talked about the one memory where they're gone, invisible from the hips up? That's what I get when I look for for Planet 9.
For the large, thing past Pluto and past all the Kuiper Belt stuff, they're thinking it's probably like a Neptune mass, either a super Earth or a gas giant.
Now, you've said that... Oh, I'm sorry.
The Nibiru stuff talks about a brown dwarf star with a planet or two and moons that's orbiting the sun at a different angle.
So it might not just be a Planet 9, it might be a small system, almost like how the Jovian system is almost its own solar system.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm getting that from stuff I've read. So this is not information from SSP.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
But I'm trying to make a distinction. This is 3D research I've done. And it makes sense that a brown dwarf would be coming into the system because all of the planets have been heating up. And even NASA has been talking about that.
Well, not only that, but it turns out the sun is tilted 6 degrees to the rest of the solar system, and for the longest time they haven't been able to figure out why. And they think that now it's from the gravity of Planet 9 or the Planet 9 system tugging on the rest of the solar system.
Well, it's more... What I do remember from SSP is that gravity isn't as big of a power as they are teaching us on Earth, that it's really about electromagnetics. And so it would be the polarity of the brown dwarf pulling on the sun. So, yeah, they use a whole different math. It's base 60, and they use whole different physics, and it's based on the closest thing to the physics that they use that's on Earth now is the electric universe theory mixed with quantum physics. The two of those together are what the truth is. So
makes sense.
All of Earth physics is wrong because they followed Einstein, and he was wrong. The speed of light is not a constant. and there was something else he was wrong about that I can't remember what it was.
I would assume there's a lot that there was something I was reading about the other day, and I forget what it was called. It was the something effect, but they're talking about how the closer you get to the speed of light, the more radiation you soak, because regular light, the wavelength of regular light changes relative to you moving at 99.99999% of the speed of light. So normal light starts to cook you like microwave radiation.
Well, that makes sense.
Now,
I hadn't heard that before.
you said you were a navigator for Night Weapon, right? That's what it is. Okay, so now we've come across this thing in the past. It's kind of old news. It's been out for several years now, but it's called Vanablack. It's actually a material that's like blacker than black. It like 99.9% of light cannot escape it, and it'll obscure any bit of detail like texture or anything like that. It seems like it would be a perfect spaceship coating, something like that, because it was flying through the air. All you would see is a shape, no kind of texture or anything.
Comes courtesy of a company called Surrey Nanosystems.
Do you remember anything about the ships that or I don't know how many you were on as a navigator, but like the outside, what it looked like? Was it stark black or?
It was shiny, silvery. It was aluminum.
It was aluminum.
It was aluminum.
What
It
was it?
wasn't painted with anything. It was originally, the hull was originally designed to be a submarine.
So you were on the older model then.
I was on something, it was named the Zollheimen,
Zollheimen?
and that was the name of a German fleet officer who died in action. They named most of their ships after officers or just numbers. But this one was named for an officer who was killed in action. And
Do you know the circumstances?
we were a freighter. No, I don't know the circumstances. I had a hard time remembering the name.
Right.
That was one of those things that they didn't want me to remember.
Mm-hmm.
But
Did you ever try to trace that back to the surface and see if you can find any connections with his lineage or anything like that?
yeah, I did try, and I just hit a brick wall. There was nothing on Google or Start Page about it at all. So, but yeah.
Well, you win some, you lose some. I come across brick walls all the time.
Well, speaking of memories, I remember you telling me about, and I remember Tony talking about this a lot, how he said that when he went through the combat trials on Ceres base, people would go to fight mantids or the spiders from Mars or other things.
That was on the moon.
Oh, okay. Well,
That was on the moon, yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. So people would get blown up and killed, and all sorts of horrible things would happen to them. And we found this article coming from EU Observer talking about outsourcing your memory to the cloud. So again, this is the soft disclosure. They're trying to leak this out. This was reported the 17th of January of this year, but they're talking about Kevin Warwick, a professor and deputy vice chancellor of Coventry University, as being one of the world's first cyborgs. And they're, exploring the idea of backing your memories up to a computer system, and then, if you die and have to clone yourself from whatever's left, they can back all your memories right up.
How do they handle the consciousness transfer?
There's a machine that they put you in, and you just sit in it, and it looks like an electric chair, to be honest.
So does it take your consciousness and clone it and use it, or is it just like rip it out of your body?
It rips it out of your body, puts it into the other one, and then brings you back when they're done.
So it's not a copying process or anything like that?
No, your consciousness is it's a thing. It's a complete thing, and they cannot copy it because it's the real person.
Right.
And they can They can partition it into alters, but they can't copy it. So they can transfer it into a body that you're quantum entangled with. So far, they cannot put my consciousness in your body.
Right.
They don't know how to do that. At least not yet. They may be working on it. So there's no moving me into you. They can only move me into someone who shares my DNA.
Right,
my
right.
exact DNA.
It has to be a genetic clone of you.
Yeah. But they can minimize the amount of DNA that's there. That's what they do with the cyborgs.
They use a bare amount, just the bare amount to have your brain there, and that actually kind of makes sense too, because I've heard a lot of people wondering, how are we going to preserve humans in space, this and that? How are we going to send, a ship that doesn't have warp drive from one system to another and have it, go on a 70, 80, 200, however long year journey? Another article from Futurism.
I've got news for them.
Go ahead.
There are jump gates. You don't have to have warp drive. You just have to have a ship small enough to go through the jump gate.
So there are stargates.
There are stargates, yes.
Very cool.
And they are builder race tech. So yes, there are stargates.
And I think it was Corey Good said there was natural gates too, a natural gate system too. Wasn't it?
There's a natural gate system that is based on the electric connections between a star and the bodies around it. And that the location of that changes by, it's like an electric arc between them, and it changes with the orbit and the rotation of the planet. So it'll be in a different spot every hour or two, but you can count on that if you go through the Stargate that's in the sun and you're headed towards Earth, you'll get to Earth. It may not be the place on Earth that you want to be, but you can travel from there.
Right.
So is that dealing with those plasma tubes? Do you know if that has anything to do with that? The plasma tubes that are flown around, constantly moving location on Earth?
That could be. I've seen videos in a UFO group where that it's obvious portals that are opening and things are coming out and the portal closes back up.
Mm-hmm.
People are really rude, and they're just calling it fake, but they have no idea. Those are real things. And we get a lot of traffic through there. Most of the UFO traffic on Earth is actually from the secret space programs.
I would imagine so.
There are a few races that have been given bases on Earth where they're not bothered, and they get to come and go as they please. I know the Tall Whites have Area 54 in Nevada. And there's a Draco base in Queen Maud's land.
Yeah, New Schwabenland.
Yeah. The Draco have their own base, separate from...
Oh, separate from the German base?
Separate from the German. The Germans are generally very strict about no interaction between the races.
Well, I would imagine that was kind of like,
yeah, that was their thing,
a big theme of Nazism was...
Yeah, well, they are the same way with the ETs. There is no interaction. You have a liaison who is usually a hybrid and treated like shit. Hybrids are treated crappy by the Germans.
I would imagine so.
Even the MELABs. I was a MELABs hybrid. I was not born. No, I was born. I was not
naturally born?
I was not created as a hybrid.
Right, you were born naturally as a person.
Yeah,
and
you were conceived as a human and then
I
manipulated
was
afterwards.
conceived as a complete human, and they altered my DNA before I was born. So I was born a MELABS hybrid, but I was not conceived as one.
Right.
So I was conceived as my parents' child, which in that generation, what they did was they targeted a woman, and when her doctor reported she was pregnant, then they would abduct her and mess with the kid. Now what they're doing, and what they've been doing since the 70s or so, is kidnapping the targeted people, taking out their eggs and sperm, and then mixing them in a lab and growing them themselves. That's what they're doing. That's what happened with Randy Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. The shake and bake method.
Yeah, they have chosen the people that they want to be the parents for these super soldiers and SSP people. And so some of them, they're putting them back into women because they found that most of my generation went insane because of the way they were treating us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they found that the kids do better when they're with a parent and are given enough affection to make them stable. And so that's why that Corey Good talks about that he was 6 when they contacted him, and they started taking him from school to do things. Mm-hmm. And then they abducted him because they found out that the kids don't go as insane that way.
Right.
So,
I was actually in one of those programs that are similar to the talented and gifted programs.
Yeah, I was a gifted kid.
They used to take me out of my school and to another school.
They called our program here in Hampton Gain, but it was
yeah. My oldest was in Gain. They didn't have it. They had stopped doing it in California whenever my youngest was in. I have 3 kids that are mine. They look enough like me. They couldn't be anyone else's.
So we've got another question coming from the YouTube chat. I don't know if you'll have the answer to this, but we'll give it a crack. Where do your memories reside, and how is it structured?
It'd be nice if they could expound on that a little bit.
If they're still listening, maybe they can. I don't really know what that person is meaning by that, but I mean, maybe is
I
he
guess
saying
they
that
meant like when if you are storing your memories outside of your body, you know, if they have some sort of tech that allows you to record your memories in an external medium, and so that way when you're ripped apart by a Mars spider or whatever, they can just back you back up. So I would assume it would be in the cloud. It would be in somebody else's computer, listener.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they would have to.
I haven't talked about that because
one question I'd wanted to ask was
it freaks the hell out of me. I have one set of memories that's in my physical head, but it's divided up into the altar that experienced it. And as I reintegrate the altars, the memories become available to Penny.
Gotcha.
And each altar has their own name. The one that was on Mars is named Penelope Valkyrian, and she took the last name from her fighter unit. It was a group of women fighter pilots, so they were called the Valkyries. But each altar stores their own memories in my head. But because of the chips, my memories are also being stored in a computer. and some are on Mars, and some are on Earth, and some are on the Zolheimen.
Gotcha. So they're still backing stuff up on that ship.
They're still backing stuff up with that chip. So they know what I'm telling. They know what I'm remembering. They know who I'm talking to, and about what. I'm an absolutely wide open book for them. So if you have secrets you don't want them to know, don't tell me.
Did Lou fall asleep or something in the room? Because I'm looking around, I'm hearing
snoring.
Okay. I was hearing snoring, and I'm trying to figure out what it was. And we had Justin, one of the owners of Radio Free Radio, sitting in the corner. I thought he was asleep. I threw something at him, and he was looking at me like, "What?"
Lou's asleep on the couch.
Sorry, Lou. I didn't mean to put you to sleep.
No, this is. He's older than I am, and he gets up earlier in the morning than I do, and he does his thing, and then he takes a nap so that he can spend time with me in the evening.
Oh.
We're retired, and we live in this 1,200 square foot apartment, and we hardly ever go anywhere. So it's our way to make sure we're not in each other's face all the time.
Nice. That sounds like a good plan.
Well, I had a couple of tech questions, too. We've had articles, and I just shared them on our Facebook page. One of them is from Sign of the Times, and they say researchers reveal DNA-based super-fast computer that grows as it computes. Researchers from the University of Manchester have shown that it is possible to build a new super-fast form of computer that grows as it computes. And they start talking about how they basically are building a computer based on processors made of DNA rather than silicon. And can use, they say as DNA molecules are very small, a desktop computer could potentially utilize more processors than all the electronic computers, electronic computers in the world combined, and therefore outperform the world's current fastest supercomputer while consuming a tiny fraction of its energy. And there's another article that we have.
I got it up on the screen.
Okay. Okay, cool. And there's another article that we have from Fizzorg talking about ultra short light pulses being used for light wave computers and actually having computers basically having processors made of light. And so what I wanted to ask was if you'd run into any of this kind of tech in your experiences, and if you'd seen DNA based computers or light based computers, or perhaps even some synthesis tech that incorporates both.
The computer on the Zolheimen was based on neurons instead of circuits, and it was DNA based. I had not yet heard about the light-based ones, so that may have been used in other ships or the planetary computers, but
neurons themselves use light to transmit signals.
I guess
so. I guess it is kind of synthesis tech.
Well, I know the Zolheimen was built in the 80s, so they had the neuron-based computers in the 80s.
And I remember when that was Star Trek stuff. You guys on Voyager, Voyager had the Neurogel packs, and there was one time that the ship actually got sick, and so they had to cure the ship.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of Earth-like habitable, or at least candidates for Earth-like habitable planets appearing in the news recently, like Gliese 667cc, Kepler 22b, Kepler 69c, Kepler 186f, and just the other day they announced one of the best candidates. They are calling it LHS 1140b. And these are all kind of like right in our neighborhood, 40 light years or less away. And I was just wondering if you'd ever heard about people going to any of these worlds and happen to know if they actually had names outside of alphabet soup.
Yeah, I doubt that she's going to know what planet was what by those numbers.
Well, no, I'm wondering if, if you were a navigator, you would know what the common designation is, and then, what they really call it, the people they really call it.
I was aware of 5 colonies outside this solar system.
So
at least 2 of them are now completely independent.
So no back and forth with Earth necessary to
Whatsoever.
keep
So
them going.
Who was
no,
the
no back and actually, when I was in Night Weapon, I was told, brainwashed, that Earth was dead. Everybody, maybe the highest officers knew, but I was a lieutenant, and at least at my rank and below, Earth was dead. We were brainwashed that Earth had been destroyed in a war with rogue ETs, and that cobalt bombs had been used, and that no life was going to be able to live there for a long time.
So now,
how'd you break that brainwashing?
There was no place to go. You went along with the program because there was no place else to be, and if you didn't comply, you got put out an airlock.
so were there different factions or levels of compartmentalization within Night Weapon? Because Tony Rodriguez described returning to Earth for a mission. So apparently his crew knew that Earth wasn't dead.
Well, mine didn't.
I wonder why they did that. Maybe
Compartmentalization.
yeah, it's got
probably.
to just be some type of different faction, like brigade.
Power trips.
Ultimately it comes down to the power structure of X group. They want their people to think this, and then power structure or Y group, it's more useful for them for their people to think X or Y. You tell them what you want them to think, and they think it.
Well, it's not like they give you much option for independent thought. You're not.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I wasn't even allowed my own head. I was mind linked into the computer.
Well, we found
and my job was to look at a screen and make course corrections based on things coming at us that weren't on the map.
Well, Patty, we are coming up on the end of the show. We would like to thank you again for coming on, and you're more than welcome to come on anytime you'd like. We love talking to you. You're a very interesting woman.
Yeah, I enjoyed our talk tonight.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming on.
And thank you guys for
having me.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you again next week on Reality Brief.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night.
OBS too.